Okay, so we're going to use Excel to help us solve some problems in chapters 2, 3, 2, 4, and 2, 5. Now, this video is not going to, or I'm sorry, Excel is not going to help us solve every single problem in these chapters, but it's definitely going to help us with the majority of them. So in chapters 2, 3, we're specifically only using Excel to find the mean, median, and mode. Now, for these examples, we're going to use the data here on the left. These are just random numbers generated for this example. Right, luckily for us, Excel has several functions built into it. All we need to do is ensure that we type out the function, of course the required function, and Excel is going to give us the solution that we need. Now, I don't require you to memorize all these functions. I recommend you write them down on a sheet of paper. You can definitely use Excel for the quizzes, and then I'm still considering whether or not we can use Excel for the midterm and the final, but I'll keep you guys updated. Okay, so we're going to see a few functions here. The way that we let Excel know that we're typing out a function is we need to make sure we start off with the equal sign. The equal sign is letting the program in Excel know, like, hey, you know, I'm going to feed you a function and I want you to give me the result. Because if you don't have the equal sign, if you just start typing out letters, well, Excel doesn't know the difference between the letters that you want to type out versus the letters in the actual function. So the equal sign is determining the difference there. It's letting you know, hey, you know, I'm going to feed you a function. I'm not typing out letters, I'm typing out a function. So give me the result. Okay, so that's very important. Here we have an equal sign. And to find the mean, the function that Excel uses for that is titled average. So all we have to do is type out equals and then average. There it is. And so this function alone is going to give us the mean of the data. The next thing you have to do is ensure that we type out the data. The way we do that is by starting with a left parenthesis, and then we need to select our data. So hover your mouse over on the very first cell over here, click and hold, and then just drag all the way down. Once you release, ensure that you close your data set with a right parenthesis, as so. And that's pretty much it. Once we hit enter, Excel is going to give us the mean of the data. There it is. So the mean is 8.7. Okay, the function for median, this one's a bit more obvious. This one's just equals median, so that's nice. Left parenthesis, we need to ensure that we highlight our data. So once again, click and hold on the first cell, drag all the way down to the last cell, and release. Once you release, once again, make sure that you close your parentheses. Hit enter, and it looks like the median is equal to 9. Now the mode is a little more complicated because Excel, well, I mean, there's a specific function for multimodal data. Now that one's a bit more sophisticated. We're not going to really focus too much on that. So the way we're going to find the mode using Excel is we're first going to list the data from least to greatest. So recall that we do that by selecting the entire column, going to the data tab, and then clicking on this icon over here, A through Z. Doing so, notice that the data is now listed from least to greatest. So it should be a bit more obvious to see what the data is here. I'm sorry, what the mode is here. Notice over here that the value 4 appears twice. So let me highlight that in yellow. But also the number 9 appears twice. Let me highlight that in yellow. And then notice that the value 15 also appears twice. So it looks like we have a multimodal here. The data has multiple modes. Specifically, the modes are 4, 9, and 15. Okay. Now for chapters 2.4, we have the sample variance, sample standard deviation, population variance, and population standard deviation. So hopefully by now you saw how we can use the formulas to find these. It's very tedious, very time consuming. So good thing we have Excel to help us out here. For the sample variance, what we're going to do is we're going to type out equals var for variance dot s. And the dot s is letting Excel know that we want the sample variance rather than the population variance. Okay, that's nice. Once again, we need to highlight our data. Before we do that, we need to make sure that we type out a left parenthesis, and then we can just highlight the data. Once again, close it with the right parenthesis, and there we have the sample variance. The sample standard deviation is equals STDEV dot S. Once again, dot S, so that Excel knows that we want the sample rather than the population. Left parenthesis, highlight the data, and then right parenthesis, enter, and the sample standard deviation is 4.6678. The population variance, that's equals VAR dot P. P is for population. Once again, the left parenthesis, highlight your data, close the parentheses, enter. So the population variance is 19.61. Lastly, the population standard deviation, that's equals STDEV dot P, left parenthesis, highlight your data, right parenthesis, and that's it. So again, we're definitely going to use technology to help us out here. Or statisticians nowadays, of course, they don't use the formulas. Why waste a lot of time using the formulas when we have programs that can do that for us? So again, if you would like to use the formulas, you're more than welcome to do so. But again, you're able to use the Excel files, the Excel functions for the quizzes. So I definitely recommend using it to your advantage. Now the quartiles here, Q1, Q2, Q3, and IQR. Well, the first quartile, the way we do that is we type out equals quartile dot INC. And INC stands for inclusive. There's a lot of theory behind whether we want to use inclusive or exclusive. We'll discuss that later on in the future, but for now we're going to be including every single data point. So make sure you type out INC in the end. Left parenthesis, highlight your data. Now here you need to be very careful. After you finish highlighting your data, we need to let Excel know which quartile we want. There's 3 different quartiles, Q1, Q2, and Q3. So we need to make sure we let Excel know that we want the first one, Q1. And the way we do that is after you highlight your data, we have A1 to A10. We need to make sure we put a comma and then A1. Notice over here it's letting us, or I'm sorry, it's giving us the options: first quartile, second quartile, third quartile, and so on. So we type out 1, it's letting Excel know, hey, we want the first quartile. Once you hit enter, it looks like Q1 is 4.5. Now Q2, we know that Q2 is actually just the median. So we already calculated the median up here. We know that the median is 9. But let's use the function in Excel, the quartile function, to see if we get the same value. So equals quartile.inc for inclusive. Left parenthesis, highlight your data. Once again, we need to let Excel know which quartile we want, so we put a comma 2 for the second quartile, right parenthesis, and enter. And notice that the second quartile is 9. We already knew that because the second quartile is the same thing as the median. Okay, that's nice. Second to last, I guess, third quartile equals quartile.inc, left parenthesis, highlight your data, comma 3 for the third quartile, and if you hit enter, it looks like it's 12.25. Now, by definition, the interquartile range, that's equal to Q3 minus Q1. We already have those values here, Q3 and Q1, so all you have to do is subtract these values, and that's what the interquartile range is equal to. So we could do equals 12.25 minus 4.5, once again Q3 minus Q1, hit enter, and it looks like it's 7.75. Okay, so I hope this video helps, and as always, make sure you let me know if you have any questions.